Some cars do more than move people. They move culture itself. They start as everyday machines and somehow become mirrors for identity, rebellion, and pride. The late 1970s were full of transition. Oil crises, changing tastes, and new emissions rules reshaped what an American car could be. Yet out of that uncertainty came something no executive could have planned. A machine that would roll into the streets and never leave the collective imagination. This is the story of how an unlikely mid-size coupe became a blank canvas for a movement that still thrives today. How design met community and how that connection turned into legend. Before we begin, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment on what iconic ride you want us to cover next. The 1977 Buick Regal entered showrooms during a turning point for American cars. Downsizing led the news and comfort beat raw power. Even as regulations trimmed output, the Regal kept calm proportions and a balanced posture. Buick sold it as a personal luxury coupe, elegance with restraint, presence without noise. Under the long hood sat a rear-wheel drive layout that suggested quiet potential. In a decade of smaller engines and fading chrome, the Regal carried itself with confidence. It was less about brute force and more about stance. The 231 cubic inch V6 offered steady service. The structure and balance invited future ideas. Young builders in Southern California saw those lines and panels as a perfect canvas. Long, straight sides and a crisp roofline welcomed two-tone paint and thin pinstripes. The Regal moved from brochure to body shop. Owners swapped factory suspension for hydraulic systems that could rise, dip, and pause on command. This was craft with intent, not just parts. Chrome accents, polished spokes, and metallic flake became personal signatures. The cabin turned into a rolling lounge. Soft light and plush upholstery created calm in the middle of city energy. The 1977 Buick Regal became part of the soundtrack. Motion-matched music. Mainstream car culture chased a different goal. Rivals promoted quarter-mile numbers and nostalgia for old muscle. In the lowrider lane, art replaced lap time. Each Regal was a work in progress, always evolving. The engine bay welcomed bright hardware, clean wiring, and even mild swaps without upsetting the balance. The frame tolerated hydraulic stress when set up correctly. Graceful curves framed detailed paint that played with sunlight. The car rewarded patience and precision. Builders learned to tune travel, pressure, and timing. The result felt choreographed rather than chaotic. It was engineering applied to style and rhythm. By the early 1980s, the 1977 Buick Regal had become a favored lowrider platform. Magazines featured rows of Regals at weekend shows. Clubs compared details, stance, and finish quality. For many, it was a path to expression during social change, an affordable way to build beauty with community support. Mechanicals advanced along with the art. Simple two-pump layouts gave way to more complex systems with multiple batteries and polished lines. Controls gained finesse. Each lift, tilt, or pause communicated skill. Suspension became language. The way a Regal carried its nose or settled at a light said something about its maker. The larger point was clear. Meaning is built by people. A comfort-focused coupe turned into a vehicle for identity and pride. Where others saw a used car, builders saw opportunity. The story of the Regal was not only metal and paint, it was also mentorship, neighborhood ties, and resilient creativity. Even as the market shifted to front-wheel drive and more electronics, the 1977 Regal kept its place as an authentic craft base. It stood for work you could touch and trace. Hundreds of hours in sanding, wiring, polishing, and alignment. Families built together. Clubs passed methods from one generation to the next. What began as a balanced road car became a pillar of a culture. The silhouette stayed recognizable. The approach matured. Events brought people together. Organizers created spaces to celebrate quality and respect. The Regal proved that patient improvement could turn a familiar shape into something deeply personal. The look evolved, but the values stayed. Clean installs, tidy looms, and safe setups became standards. Builders documented parts and processes so results could be repeated. Quality climbed as knowledge spread. Paint techniques sharpened. Patterns and fades became more refined. Bright work was restored instead of replaced. Attention also turned to reliability for real street use. Cooling, charging, and wiring upgrades kept systems stable. Careful alignment reduced wear. Owners learned to balance display and drivability. The cars still cruised at night, not just stepped onto show fields. The goal was harmony between form and function. Over time, outside pressure tested the scene. Policies and perceptions sometimes misunderstood the craft. Even so, respect grew as people met builders, saw safe practices, and recognized the discipline involved. The 1977 Buick Regal stood in the middle of that conversation. Familiar, welcoming, and proudly detailed. As the era moved forward, the Regal's role became even clearer. It was a bridge between everyday life and rolling art, between tradition and new technique. In the next chapter, the focus turns to how recognition spread and how dialogue with cities and organizers shaped events. The legend kept growing with care. By the mid-1980s, the 1977 Buick Regal had become more than a customized cruiser. It was a symbol that carried both admiration and misunderstanding. Law enforcement often associated lowrider gatherings with trouble, even though the majority of owners were dedicated builders and family men showing their work. These tensions created an environment where pride and persistence mattered as much as craftsmanship. For many, the Regal represented resilience in the face of stereotypes. It proved that beauty and skill could emerge from overlooked corners of the city. The mechanical evolution of the 1977 Buick Regal continued through this period. Hydraulics grew more sophisticated. Builders refined electrical layouts to handle higher voltage, smoother lifts, and quicker response. Paint technology advanced, allowing for intricate murals and deep candy coats that could take months to layer. What set the Regal apart was its balanced design. Its boxy yet elegant profile offered perfect symmetry for visual storytelling. Artists could treat the panels as canvas while still maintaining harmony between form and function. Each Regal that rolled out of a workshop was not only a car, but a declaration of creativity. Cultural influence expanded alongside this craftsmanship. Music videos, local parades, and urban photography captured the Regal in its full glory. The car became shorthand for an entire way of life. To see a Regal glide slowly down a boulevard was to witness heritage in motion. While outsiders might have dismissed it as excess, those within the culture recognized discipline, patience, and precision. The 1977 Buick Regal was a lesson in engineering balance as much as in visual art. It proved that performance could be emotional rather than numerical. The smoothness of a cruise or the rhythm of a bounce carried as much meaning as a dyno chart. Yet, challenges persisted. Insurance companies increased premiums. City ordinances restricted gatherings. Even media portrayals sometimes reinforced negative images. Despite this, the community rallied. Builders organized sanctioned shows, introduced safety regulations, and created family-friendly events that highlighted the positive side of the culture. The 1977 Buick Regal became the centerpiece of these gatherings, drawing enthusiasts who admired the dedication behind each build. The car's presence unified people across backgrounds, linking generations through shared respect for craft and history. Technological progress also shaped the Regal's path. While newer cars embraced computers and front-wheel drive layouts, the 1977 Regal's simplicity kept it attractive to tinkerers. Parts availability remained strong. Junkyards became treasure troves where owners scavenged chrome trim, dashboards, and even entire frames to restore their machines. Workshops specialized in keeping these cars alive. Each rebuild was a preservation effort, a refusal to let an era fade quietly. Over time, the Regal became a mentor's tool, a way to teach younger builders patience, discipline, and the reward of doing something right rather than fast. Culturally, the Regal stood at the intersection of memory and identity. For first-generation builders, it was a symbol of arrival, a statement that creativity could transform limitation into pride. For their children, it became an inheritance of skill and tradition. This continuity helped the 1977 Buick Regal outlast trends that came and went. Even as other vehicles gained temporary fame, the Regal's balanced shape and mechanical accessibility ensured its place as a cornerstone. Every hop at a show, every slow roll at sunset, reinforced its role as the keeper of lowrider language. The deeper story of the 1977 Buick Regal lies in what it represents about adaptation. When factory performance faded, owners redefined performance itself. When society questioned their intent, they responded with art that demanded respect. The Regal became a platform for dialogue, a moving reminder that culture thrives when it has something tangible to hold on to. The sound of hydraulic pumps, the gleam of chrome under streetlights, the patience required to align a body panel perfectly, all of it spoke to a quiet kind of excellence. As the years advanced, nostalgia added another layer. Collectors began to seek untouched Regals, restoring them to factory condition while respecting their low-rider heritage. Car clubs started documenting builds as historical records. Some vehicles were displayed in museums, recognized for their cultural significance. The once overlooked 1977 Buick Regal had crossed from subculture to heritage, carrying the weight of authenticity that no marketing campaign could manufacture. By the 1990s and early 2000s, the Regal's influence could be seen in new generations of builders experimenting with air suspension, digital controls, and hybrid aesthetics. Yet through all this evolution, the spirit of the 1977 Buick Regal remained constant: balance, respect, and beauty in motion. The car's legacy was no longer confined to one neighborhood or one city. It had become a national emblem of creativity through adversity. The story, however, was not complete. What began as rebellion and craftsmanship had matured into recognition and legacy. The 1977 Buick Regal had proven its endurance, but now it faced a different kind of test: preservation. As older cars aged and parts became scarce, keeping them alive required more than passion. It required organization, collaboration, and historical awareness. In the next segment, we explore how the Regal transitioned from a working-class art form to a celebrated collector's item, and what that transformation reveals about American culture itself. As time moved into the 2000s and beyond, the 1977 Buick Regal entered a new chapter of its story. What was once a neighborhood favorite had become a national treasure, representing the bridge between craftsmanship and culture. Enthusiasts who had grown up watching these cars glide down boulevards were now adults with the means to preserve them. The Regal transitioned from weekend project to prize collector's piece, but it never lost its roots. Its identity remained tied to the communities that gave it meaning, even as museums and exhibitions began to recognize its artistic and historical value. Collectors faced a challenge unlike any before: how to restore the 1977 Buick Regal without erasing its soul. Some chose factory restorations, returning the car to showroom perfection. Others preserved patina, letting each scratch tell part of its journey. The debate between authenticity and preservation echoed across clubs and forums. For many, the goal was not perfection but truth. The truth of where the car came from, who built it, and what it represented. These decisions highlighted a deeper question: can something born from rebellion survive inside the frame of recognition? The answer came through action, not theory. Builders continued to meet at shows, blending generations under one banner. Younger enthusiasts learned paint techniques from older masters, while engineers introduced modern upgrades to keep the Regal roadworthy. Air ride systems replaced hydraulics for some, offering comfort without losing the signature stance. Others stayed loyal to tradition, rebuilding pumps and batteries by hand. The 1977 Buick Regal became a shared project across time, where preservation itself was an act of respect. Economics also played a role in this evolution. As the market for classic cars expanded, the Regal's value rose steadily. Auctions that once ignored it began to feature it as a symbol of cultural identity and design balance. Yet unlike other collector cars that became distant investments, most Regals remained connected to their original purpose: participation. Owners didn't just store them, they drove them, displayed them, and passed them down. The community around the 1977 Buick Regal refused to let it become a museum relic. Its continued presence on the street ensured that the art form stayed alive, visible, and proud. What set the Regal apart from many contemporaries was its emotional accessibility. A muscle car might impress with numbers, but the Regal captivated through story. It represented creativity under constraint, beauty born from patience, and pride built through unity. Every detail, the tilt of its nose, the gleam of its paint, the hum of its hydraulics, carried echoes of the people who built it. That intimacy kept the car relevant in an era defined by technology and speed. The Regal moved slower, but it moved with meaning. Modern restorers took advantage of technology in service of tradition. Digital scanning preserved body dimensions. 3D printing recreated discontinued trim pieces. Online communities archived wiring diagrams and paint codes once shared only by word of mouth. The 1977 Buick Regal had evolved from a physical artifact into a digital legacy, ensuring that future generations could rebuild it with accuracy and care. This blend of past and future mirrored the balance that defined the car from the start: luxury and strength, elegance and defiance, nostalgia and innovation. Even outside car shows, the Regal's presence continued to influence design culture. Fashion shoots, music videos, and film productions used it to evoke authenticity. Its lines represented a kind of quiet power, a reminder that confidence could exist without aggression. In cities across the country, from Los Angeles to Houston to Chicago, the sight of a 1977 Buick Regal cruising slowly under sunlight carried both reverence and joy. It was a reminder that craftsmanship still mattered, that stories could still be told through metal and motion. This legacy also sparked conversations about inclusion and representation. Many museums and cultural institutions began recognizing the lowrider movement as a vital American art form. The 1977 Buick Regal often stood at the center of those exhibits, bridging automotive history with social narrative. Visitors could trace the lineage of a car that started as a factory-built commuter and ended as a symbol of cultural resilience. Its presence validated a generation's artistry, turning what was once misunderstood into something celebrated. Through all of this, the 1977 Buick Regal continued to age gracefully. Time tested its materials, but not its meaning. Each surviving example carried layers of history. Fingerprints from decades of work, family memories tied to weekend gatherings, and countless stories told over the sound of idling engines. The car had transcended ownership. It belonged to everyone who saw themselves reflected in its chrome. As the world moved toward electric vehicles and automation, the Regal remained defiantly analog, a reminder of the hands that built it and the hearts that preserved it. Its endurance wasn't about resisting change, but about remembering the human side of creation. In the next and final section, we bring this journey full circle, exploring what the 1977 Buick Regal ultimately taught us about identity, artistry, and the lasting power of movement. The 1977 Buick Regal began as an answer to market demand. It ended as an answer to cultural need. In tracing its journey, we find a story not just about machinery, but about meaning. This car proved that innovation is not always born in corporate offices or design studios. Sometimes it emerges from driveways, backyards, and shared determination. The Regal's shape, its stance, and its quiet confidence gave people a way to express who they were long before recognition arrived. What the 1977 Buick Regal teaches us now is that legacy is built, not given. The model was never the fastest, never the rarest, and never the most luxurious on paper. Yet it outlasted many of its flashier contemporaries because people gave it life beyond specifications. Every rebuilt pump, every coat of paint, every careful alignment of chrome carried intention. That human touch turned an ordinary car into an heirloom of spirit. When we see a Regal gliding at sunset, we are not watching a vehicle. We are watching memory made visible. This story also reveals something powerful about American creativity. The 1977 Buick Regal became a medium through which communities expressed artistry in an industrial form. It demonstrated that elegance and rebellion could coexist, that respect for tradition could evolve into innovation. The builders who lifted and lowered these cars were engineers as much as artists, balancing hydraulics with aesthetics, endurance with grace. Through them, the Regal transcended category. It was not just a car. It was a movement in steel and rhythm. Today, preservation efforts ensure that this movement continues. Restoration shops, car clubs, and families maintain archives, photos, and manuals to guide new generations. The 1977 Buick Regal now occupies a rare place in history, acknowledged by museums yet still active on the streets where it was born. It connects the past and present, a bridge between expression and engineering. In an age defined by speed, it reminds us that patience and precision can be just as inspiring. For those who remember the first time they saw a Regal rise on hydraulics or sparkle under streetlights, the feeling remains the same, pride mixed with wonder. It represents not just what people built, but why they built it. Every polished panel tells a story of persistence, every hop a heartbeat of a culture that refused to fade. The 1977 Buick Regal stands as a tribute to all who turned adversity into artistry, proving that beauty can emerge anywhere passion takes root. As we close this story, take one more look at what the Regal symbolizes. It began as transportation and became translation, a way for people to speak through motion, design, and rhythm. Its endurance shows that when creativity meets community, the result can outlast generations. Whether you admire it for its design, its engineering, or its cultural resonance, the message remains clear. The true value of a car lies in the meaning we give it. If this journey through the 1977 Buick Regal inspired you, remember that every classic has its own untold story waiting to be revisited. Like, subscribe, and share your thoughts on which icon should ride next. The road of history is long, and every legend deserves another lap.